All right, y'all. So I want to send a special thank you to Elise and Anna for their rich conversation. The full length of the conversation between our guests will be available on YouTube, our YouTube channel, in the coming days. So y'all only saw that one clip of the incredible conversation they had. So please, please, please be sure to return to our website and YouTube for a more extended interview. So now, again, I'm honored to be passing off the mic to our founder, Vilissa Thompson, and Jess Moore Matthews, who will be having a conversation about bringing digital accessibility into political campaigns. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. I am Vilissa Thompson. I am the founder and CEO of Rap Your Voice. Before I begin this incredible conversation that you're about to watch today, I am going to give a visual description of myself. I am a light-skinned Black woman who is sitting in her wheelchair. I have on a sleeveless leopard print top. My dark brown hair is pulled down. I have on glasses, a berry colored lip, and behind me is my porch that I like to sit on. You may hear some environmental noises like cars, maybe some people chattering, the birds chirping, but don't be alarmed. Today, I am in conversation with Jess Moore Matthews for us to discuss bringing digital accessibility into political campaigns. And we'll bring on Jessica to the screen.
Hello.
Hello.
It is great to see you, my friend, in this space.
Yes, yes, yes. Why don't you begin by letting us know who you are?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Jess Moore Matthews. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a brown-skinned woman with thick hair that is half up, half down today. I am repping my business Backbone in this black polo with the Backbone logo in the upper left. And I'm sitting here in my micro office in front of my bookshelf. So it's great to be here today.
Great. So since you already gave us a teaser about Backbone, tell us how Backbone came to be. What was your aha moment?
Absolutely. So Backbone came to be really organically, actually. It was 2020. I'm sure everyone remembers where they were in March of 2020. For me, I was coming off of my second presidential campaign in that presidential cycle. So I was recently laid off because my candidate had dropped out of the race. And I was looking for a place to live because I had been on the road that entire time with my husband and my then 2-year-old son. So I was in a really interesting inflection point, looking for a job, looking for a place to go, and hearing that my son was going to be out of daycare for maybe 2 weeks. We didn't know how long because of this virus that had just come onto the scene. So, at the time, I was trying to figure out what to do with the skills I had gained from being a digital marketing specialist, mobilization director on that presidential campaign. And I started hearing about friends of mine who were running for office at the local level. And so I asked them, hey, do you want me to set up your website? Do you want me to set up your social media accounts, run your email accounts? And that is actually how Backbone got started. In reality, as we all know, that pandemic never ended. So when folks started asking us to come back into the office and the jobs I was interviewing with told me that it would be need to be in person, I started to see Backbone as a sanctuary in a lot of ways, because as someone who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 15 years ago and was about 6 months pregnant at the start of the pandemic, I was extremely concerned about my health, my safety. And so Backbone became a real refuge for me and a lot of the other disabled folks who came to work with me at that time.
Thank you for that, Jess. Given your experiences with campaigns, tell us why it is important for political campaigns to make the digital elements of their campaigns accessible.
Great question. If we say that we are passionate about our democracy, if we say that we are passionate about reaching all voters, We cannot ignore and disregard disabled voters. Disabled voters are all around us, and I know a lot of folks cite that 1 in 4 number, but I always argue against that number because so many folks don't even realize that they have a disability. I teach a class about this at NYU, and I talk about ADHD, I talk about dyslexia, I talk about depression and anxiety, I talk about long COVID. There's so many of us who are experiencing disability, whether or not we identify as disabled. And so if we want to talk about reaching every single voter in this country, we have to think about disability. And we have to center that so that we can make sure we reach every single person when it comes to getting folks to the polls. I'm sure all of us have heard the analogy of the curb cuts and sidewalks. If we make campaigns accessible for folks with disabilities, we are making campaigns accessible for everyone to have access to the ballot box.
I definitely agree with you on that. And that 1 in 4 number that you mentioned, so many of us, particularly Black folks, we don't consider, our disabilities to be disabilities. So, there is this great disconnect as to who is counted in both the literal statistics as well as who sees themselves as a part of this community. And thus, think about how when it is election time, like what we're in right now, what issues matter to them that may involve their disabilities, and what do they may be listening to when it comes to candidates who may have some interest of theirs in mind when it comes to how their lives will be impacted that takes their disability into consideration. So I think that's a really good point to really make about these statistics and who is actually counted in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In your statement, how has the failure to engage disabled voters and the collective community impact candidates and campaigns?
I think there's widespread disillusionment right now with not just candidates and campaigns, but with our democracy as a whole. When folks feel like they're not being spoken to, whether that's because their issues are not being addressed or simply because someone's not adding alternative text to their graphics or captions on their videos, they feel like it doesn't matter whether they show up. And that's a huge issue. If we want people to be engaged in our democracy, they have to feel like we are speaking to them directly. It cannot be some evergreen blanket statement in which you hope folks can see themselves. You have to actually direct your message to the person that you are trying to whose vote you're trying to earn. And so for me, I think it's really about inclusion. It's about making sure that we recognize disability cuts across every issue when we're talking about folks who are being literally disabled by climate change, by gun violence, by a lack of COVID precautions. And this is something that is happening every day. More and more people are being disabled by this country every single day. And so when you don't hear candidates speaking in that way, it can feel like, what's the point? And that's something that we have to actively work against by making our content accessible and by speaking to the needs of disabled voters.
Definitely. That what's the point attitude is so prevalent when we have candidates that use ableist language, don't have policies that really center disabled people or be more inclusive of our realities. So that's a very big feeling of what's the point? Why does my vote matter? And kind of get into that, what work is left to be done on this matter? How can we ensure that disabled voters are heard and responded to this year?
First, I think it's about making sure that everyone knows they have a stake in this issue. We've talked about folks who are being disabled by this country, whether it's because they live in disabling environments, maybe next to some sort of plant that is, the chemical effects have been impacting their family for years. We have to make sure that folks understand the idea of pre-disability. In my class at NYU, we don't talk about disabled and non-disabled. We talk about disabled and pre-disabled, because the truth is we're all aging and we all are going to have something to deal with before we leave this earth. It's just the fact of the matter. And so helping folks understand that if they don't know someone who's disabled, who they want to organize around, they should think of themselves as organizing for their future self. you will eventually experience something and wish that someone had thought of you when you are mobilizing voters and trying to activate people around an issue that you actually will lead one day. And I think that's really important, is making sure everyone knows that we have a part to play.
But definitely, this is when we say we're interdependent on each other. And we
Mm-hmm.
say that interdependence includes the political as well as the social aspect
Yeah.
of society.
Yes.
And in our remaining time together, I wanted to ask, what's motivating you right now?
That's a great question. What's motivating me, I think, are the people I surround myself with. I have a 6-year-old son. That daughter who I was pregnant with in 2020 is about to turn 4. And when I look at them and I think about the organizing work that I've done at Backbone, we've helped elect the first Black district attorney of Manhattan, the first woman sheriff of Orleans Parish, the first Haitian American on the Boston City Council. All of this work is so that they see a different America by the time they understand what's going on. One of the reasons I worked so hard in 2020 is because honestly, I didn't want my daughter to learn the name Donald Trump as a part of current, politics. As history books is one thing, but to have it be a current reality is something I honestly did not want to have to deal with. And so, to this day, I think about the world I'm working toward, a world that's more accessible, a world that's more inclusive of folks with disabilities, a world that's more inclusive for their mom. That's really motivating me. And the people I surround myself with in the disability community really keep me going, because I recognize I'm not in this alone.
Awesome. Awesome. We definitely are not in here alone. We are in here together. And speaking of that, I appreciate you so much being one of our amazing speakers for the inaugural Rap Your Voice conference. Thank you so much for being here, Jess.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.